Hello, my friends. Sometimes I receive something in the spirit that disturbs me so much that I instantly see the connection and what the spirit is trying to show me. And it's a revelation, and these things happen for different things, but this morning it really just let me see the profound picture of the history for the last 2,000 years, and even what happened up into that 2,000 years, how everything repeats in the same pattern of events with the same people, even though the names of things change. Now, I've spoken ever since I started on this YouTube channel thing that if you look at what people call themselves, you will be deceived by them. What somebody calls themselves means nothing, for even the demons understood that Jesus Christ was Lord. One cannot call themselves and be differentiated from anything else by that name. That was reserved for God alone. That's His honor and His glory. It's not ours. Ours is to follow in His footsteps and believe in Him and walk with Him. His honor was to have His name protected, which, as He called it many times, would become a curse for the whole world to proclaim. Now, in the very beginning, when I had first been reborn into the Spirit, when I had first begun walking, I'm coming from a history of long-term being around Catholics. My grandmother on my dad's side of the family, her family was Polish Catholic, which means their Mass was a lot like a Protestant Mass in a sense. They renounced the Pope, that's why they were called Polish Catholics. They no longer believed in the Pope, but they held a ceremony very similar to how you would, find a Presbyterian church operating or a Baptist church operating, similar kind of evangelical style of sermon. It wasn't the same thing as the Roman Catholic sermon, which I began going to whenever I was younger. I had dated a girl for quite a while, whose family was incredibly Catholic. I used to have to go to the church and sit in that mass, and as I would sit in it, I knew their hypocrisy by what they were saying, because I knew these people that I was standing around and beside. I knew their deeds. I grew up with them. It was in a small town, so I understood everything that I was watching in church, coming from somebody who had believed nothing in God at that time. I understood the hypocrisy of Catholics, and it went from there. Immediately after I was born again, God sent me to truly examine Catholics, because they would have some level of importance that I didn't even understand 6 years ago at the time, that I've really only just firmly understood this morning through Revelation. Whenever you compare Catholics to whom they are most like by their fruits, not by what they say or what they call themselves, but by their fruits, who in history have they been most like? Paul, whenever he was a Pharisee, the Pharisees who condemned and executed their Messiah, Jesus Christ. Judas, who turned Jesus into the Pharisee for a prophet. This, by their fruits, is what Catholics have been doing for the last 2,000 years. Remember, anybody that would stand against the Roman Catholic Church in the days after Christ, they were put to death in many cases, flogged, stoned, they were ostracized. That was the majority. It was Roman Catholicism. They persecuted the people who would not follow them, the people who would not renounce the ways of the disciples. That's who they persecuted. And it went from there to the Middle Ages. Clearly, the Crusades. They persecuted anybody who would not be part of them in their way. Meaning they, just as the Pharisee, persecuted God's church. You go all the way through up until today. The very same thing will play out again. That is the beginning of the persecution of the churches that have the most faith left in this country. It will begin with Catholics. uniting with the world to begin persecuting those who call themselves now evangelicals. As evangelicals, of all the people that I have seen, all the people that I have heard that God has sent me to listen to throughout the years, evangelicals, the people that are giving you their rapture dreams and proclaiming the glory of God, even though they stumble all over His words, those people at least have a measure of faith, and God will credit them that. They have a measure of faith that Catholics are envious of. Whenever one is doing chants and they're doing witchcraft and spells, everything is about chanting and repetition. Remember, Jesus says, do not pray in repetition like the Pharisees and the scribes do. Repetition is a way to tell somebody is of the devil. Because when you just repeat things in the same pattern over and over again, it shows you do not know anything other than what you've been shown of it. You cannot think for yourself. You have no individual spirit in God to discern. You have been given this like a dog vomits and then eating it right back up, just like the dog goes back to his vomit. That is what a chant is. The rosary, holding it around them, an idol around their hand, mocking the mother of the Lord, repeating the same chants over and over and over and over again. It is masquerading as an angel of light, but it is Satan incarnate that is into their masses. And they have infiltrated those churches. And the biggest thing that I've seen in the Catholic movement, look at how God has judged them. He has brought out the sin for the whole world to see of everything that happened with the priests. That's like warning signs saying, I am going to get whoever I have of my people in there out of there before I completely judge them and use them to judge the world. Catholics will replay their history. They will do it exactly the same way that they did before. The very, very first true persecution of what they call churches in the world will happen led by Catholics. They will begin persecuting any of the churches who have any measure of faith in standing up for the Word, standing up for Jesus Christ. They will come at them and begin persecuting them, just like they always have done. And there will be some from among them who will stand up and who will come out of that beast before she's ultimately thrown into the lake of fire. Just like Paul came out of that, so will some amongst the groups of Catholics. But I tell you, not a single one that remains in her, in this scarlet beast, will be saved. They will all go into the lake of fire and burn with those whom they have loved, the demons and the angels, those who they have worshipped. You cannot stay a Catholic. You cannot live in this period of time right now and remain faithful to the Pope without renouncing Jesus Christ as your Lord. The Pope is your God. Catholics will begin persecuting the church. You can mark it down on the calendar as a future event that will happen. We talk about the mark of the beast, and we talk about the all of the COVID things that have happened. You can take a look at this little chart, and I was led to this morning. It was kind of giving me an awakening to see what was coming next for Catholics. You look at unaffiliated, atheists, agnostics. Those people took the V at 90%, 84%. Catholics, you're looking at 82, 79, and 86% of them. The reason the 79% is there is because you've had a great awakening come out of Catholics over the last decade. This would have been way higher 15 years ago. But a lot of them have come out to the point where they don't actually believe and trust in the Pope. They don't actually believe and trust in Catholicism anymore. They doubt it in their hearts. And those are the ones who Jesus will bring out of there. because he's bringing judgment to that church, and anybody that has the eyes to see can see it plain and clear. Now you look at the people who are the least likely to take this V, which I firmly, truly believe after watching everything play out, that is the mark of the beast. Because if you take it now, you would take it whatever the mark that is to come. This is your warning shot. This is your faith. Are you going to take it, or are you going to just take what the world gives you to take? If you bow to the world now, you're going to bow to the world in harsher times also. Very few will be able to get away from that. Because what you do now is in your heart. What you're going to do in times of trouble is even going to be more in your heart, because you're going to try to escape that trouble without the faith that the Lord will rescue you from it. White evangelical churches, 40% not V, 57% with the V. The lowest of all percentage. And why? Because that is the one church with an ounce of faith left in this country. The Protestant churches, especially the evangelicals that they call themselves. The people all over YouTube with their rapture dreams and their visions and stumbling all over the Word of God drunk, but at least they have some faith. Those ones are the least likely to fall into this pit. And they will be the very first ones that those who are all falling into the pit will go after first. God bless.